Good evening, everyone. I, Advocate Nilesh Borate, welcome you all on behalf of RERA Practitioners Association, Pune Study Circle, and Bar Association Maharera and Mahareed, Mumbai. Today's webinar is on provisions of Contract Act in relating to sale of immovable property, which will be presented by eminent and senior advocate Vasant Karzatkar sir. He will be sharing with us his expert opinion on the topic. I request Advocate Shilpa Pratap ma'am to kindly introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Borate sir. Good evening all. It is my great pleasure to introduce Advocate Vasant Karzatkar sir. Advocate Karzatkar sir has completed BCom Honors LLB and started his practice since 1973. He was a part-time professor of law in Symbiosis Law College and ILS Law College. He is ex-president of Pune Bar Association. Advocate Karzatkar sir has participated in seminars of legal subjects organized at New Delhi and Hyderabad. He has also participated in a seminar held at Miami, USA on World Constitution and Parliament and read paper on Constitution. His several articles on law are published in Indian Express, Sakar and other magazines. Advocate Karzatkar sir has worked as a judge in interstate moot court competition organized by Bar Council of India. He is always ready to help and discuss with the junior advocates regarding their queries. It is a great opportunity for all of us to listen to his lecture on the subject of provisions of Contract Act in relation to sale of immovable property. I would request Karzatkar sir to take over the session.
Good afternoon, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are in this webinar organized by the RERA Practitioners Association Pune in conjunction with the RERA Practitioners Association Bombay. The subject assigned to me is in respect of the transfer and the consequences as envisaged by the Indian Contract Act and the further proceedings under the special acts in connection with the RERA provisions. As you know, our Indian Contract Act and everybody we have studied in our law studies. Those of who are the commerce graduate, they have right from the BCom as well as in our legal 3 years course or 2 years course as the case may be, and at the 5 years course also. Now this law of contract is based on a very important principle of an understanding between the parties. The understanding relates to the communication between the parties for a certain thing. You are aware that every contract is formed by virtue of an proposal which is to be forwarded by the proposer, which is termed as the promisor. And the person to whom it is forwarded is a promisee who accepts it, he rejects it, or either in toto or in parts. And then the parties may agree on certain terms, either revised between them, and they form a contract. Now this acceptance of a proposal, then these particular provisions of the Contract Act starts working, and you know every agreement which has its initiation point at the promise. The promisor gives the promise, the promisee accepts the promise, and he becomes the acceptor, and accordingly the contract further goes away. Then you go further to the provisions of this particular Contract Act in relation to the how every promise is to be accepted, or every agreement is to be turned into a contract. As we are all are practicing advocates, so I did not go in details of the definitions, etc., of these particular things, but salient features of every agreement and prior to that of every proposal is very important for our subject. As you are the RERA practitioners, you come across several matters of RERA And those RERA, either you to defend the RERA builders, promoters under the RERA Act, or you initiate the proceedings against them. And when these builder promoters who comes as a builder promoter in their own capacity, they have in their transaction of the development of the immovable property have entered into certain types of agreements with the owners of the property, or if they themselves are the owners of the property while purchasing the property or obtaining development rights, or by the new theory of these joint ventures, etc. So what is required is that there must be a right with the promoter builder to have certain right to develop the property. Now, these particular rights are obtained by several modes as we have discussed now. Out of that, the first and foremost important is that of the agreement. So in every agreement, whenever we came across, especially RERA practitioners, then we have to enter into an agreement with the owner of the property or the person having interest in the property. Then we proceed further how that particular agreement comes into existence. First thing, every agreement requires the two parties. And unless there are two parties, there cannot be an agreement between them. Then the very object of the agreement has to be ascertained between the parties. Then the very subject matter of the agreement is also required to be ascertained by the parties. Especially in the cases of our RERA, whatever we find that the developer builder gets a right for development of the property. So he gets a right to develop the property from the owner of the property. The owner is the absolute owner of the property, or whether the owner is a limited owner of the property, or whether the owner has a capacity or not. All these things we have to consider prior to entering into the agreement. Then secondly, for every agreement, wherever the rights are created between the parties vis-a-vis themselves, then it is always for a consideration to be passed from the promisor to the promisee. And that consideration, it may be or may not be in a monetary form. It may be in monetary form, it's the price of that particular property, which is to be paid by the promisee, by the acceptor, etc. Or it may be partly in monetary consideration, partly in consideration of certain premises, tenements, areas, whatever thing may be. So the consideration may be in two forms as far as our type of agreements are concerned. So, but for the Contract Act, for every contract, there must be a consideration. And that consideration must be also a legal consideration. And unless otherwise there is a legal consideration, there cannot be a valid contract. So firstly, we consider that there must be two parties, there must be consideration, there must be certainty, there must be object. All these things come together and the contract is turned into an agreement. Now, what is this agreement? Agreement between the two persons. They agree upon certain thing and they enter into the contract, and that contract becomes a valid contract, which is in the eye of law an enforceable contract between the parties. So in a very simple words, two persons come together, they join hands, they fix up their terms of their object, then they sit out their terms, conditions, etc. They fix the consideration and they reduce into writing their terms, because these type of agreements, whatever we are contemplating, especially for RERA purposes, etc., because it's a long-term procedure. The development of property takes its own time, its development, its sale, then final formation of the societies, apartments, etc. So it's at least a period of 4 to 5 years minimum is required for that, and hence it is always advisable that to have such type of contracts and agreements prior to that should be in the writing. Now law proposes nowadays for the exchequer of the governments for the payment of the stamp duties. And payment of the stamp duties is now almost equal to the conveyance. So when the stamp duty equal to the conveyance deed is required to be paid on execution of the agreement itself, then we prefer it for all practical purposes to not only reduce it to writing, but to register with the registration authorities. That is the Registrar of Assurances under the Registration Act. So all these things, compliances come together. It becomes a contract. It becomes firstly, it becomes an agreement, then it becomes a contract. And when it is reduced into writing, properly attested, engrossed on a proper stamp paper, registered, then it becomes a valid, enforceable, legal contract vis-a-vis between the parties. Then we go to the second point. Normally, after execution of agreements, there starts disputes. So those disputes of various nature, and the person, he may be aggrieved, may not be aggrieved, may be greedy or otherwise. He tries to find out certain faults, and thereby, by finding the fault theory, he tries to challenge that particular transaction. So this concept of voidable contract or the void contracts have come into existence. So what if both the parties, take for example, they under mistaken enter into an agreement, then such agreement may be a void agreement, and it shall not be enforceable at law. Hence, the parties under mistake execute any type of agreement that is not the valid agreement, and that can be challenged in court of law. If one of the party under the impression of a mistake enters into agreement, that is also a voidable contract, and accordingly it is to be accordingly set out. Then we always see that whenever a person wants to challenge anything, then he just try to hamper upon the consideration and the objects, whether they are lawful or not. While executing the agreements, whenever we see that the certain rights are to be passed, certain rights are to be created between the parties, and the consideration has been agreed upon. Suppose we agree for a consideration that Mr. A enters into agreement with B, and the consideration they fix that ₹5 crores are to be paid, and along with that, the B has to commit a murder of C, who is the enemy of A. Now this partial consideration is an illegal one, and hence that particular consideration is not a lawful consideration, and that part can be challenged for defeating the contract. Secondly, the part of is unlawful or part of is a valid one, we have to consider according to the circumstances. The agreement without consideration, void, it is a general rule of law. Suppose there is no consideration fixed. A gives the property to B to develop it without fixing any consideration. How much amount to be paid to him? How much construction to be carried for him? Nothing provided in the contract, and as such there is no, because it's a gratuitous one, and gratuitous contract, as far as commercial terms are concerned, they are not valid one. Then we come to the further thing, that the agreement without consideration is a void, unless the law provides, section 25 of the Contract Act, it provides that unless it is in writing and registered. Means agreement without consideration can be executed unless it is in writing and it is registered. Then it will carry the meaning whatever agreed between the parties. The exception to this particular rule is that the agreement regarding the arbitration clause and bank guarantee to be enforced against the person, those are the exceptions. And you will also find certain agreements which are void for uncertainty. Whenever there is an uncertainty in the agreement, suppose A agrees that my property in Pune is to be developed by B, where it is in Pune, in which area, whether in Kothurud area, Karvinagar area, Deccan Gymkhana area, cantonment area, what, that is that it's uncertainty. Area is uncertain, owner may be certain, but which property among several properties of this owner of the B, which property is to be developed? So the uncertainty is not permissible in the agreement. Then we come to the certain things also under the law, especially on the Contract Act, regarding the contingent contracts. We know that the contract is always a plain contract, means what certain persons agree upon certain thing and the performance is being sought by the persons. But certain contracts, certain agreements are based on certain contingencies which may happen or which may not happen later on. Those are called the contingent contract. And the result of it is based on the happening or non-happening of the events. Hence, those contracts are termed as the contingent contracts. The contingent contracts are enforceable at law, provided the usual theory that of it should be with consideration, it should not be for unlawful consideration, and it should be between the parties with certainties, and all other procedure of the contract is duly followed for. The effect of always, whenever the contracts are executed, agreements are executed, then it always requires what is the effect of it. Every agreement which is executed between the parties, law presumes that under especially the Indian Contract Act and the doctrine of equity, it always presumes that every agreement which is executed by the parties is to be honored by the parties. But in commercial transaction, what we find, there is always a refusal of the contract, or the parties try to find out certain lacunas whereby the contract can be refused on certain grounds, and thereby one of the party may be beneficiary thereby. So effect of refusal to accept the offer of the performance, and accordingly the performance is refused, delayed, avoided, or defeated. So even parties also further go to the extent that to enter into certain terms of the agreement which may apprehend as an impossibility, as such impossibility as we have already discussed, that part consideration in the form of an illegality, or the impossibility. What impossibility? That the particular property which is agreed to be sold to A by B to A. Now A wants to purchase it, but B says in the agreement that unless A attains the age of 100 years, then only the contract will be fulfilled. Now this may be an impossibility. One may not attend a 100 years of tenure of life. So this type of agreements are defeated as it is impossible, and they can be termed as a void contract. Lastly, you will find that all these agreements, etc., whatever we enter into, we execute between the parties, they are always for creation of rights, and they are based on the commercial terms between the parties. Especially for RERA practitioners, you can find out that in RERA Act now, a new provision is already there regarding the insurance of the title. So far, this act, it is not made applicable, but very soon or later or sooner it will be made applicable. So when the person who is to be registered under the RERA Act, and who is a promoter, who intends to develop the property, he wants to sell the property. Now it has become more difficult for him, that he has to obtain the not only legal and clear title, but he must ensure to the others. Previously also he was ensuring, but now it has been a statutory obligation on him. Merely damages, etc., will not be sufficient for him. So while dealing with this type of agreements by the lawyers, by we lawyers, we have to consider very strictly regarding the proper investigation of the title. Then these particular all transactions of the RERA is RERA covered, as well as the development of properties where the RERA Act is applicable. They are having huge investments, and the longer period of performance, as already we have discussed. And the last and the most foremost important thing, that every year the trend of the real estate is always an increased one. It is always increasing, and that's why the parties may have a greed in their mind, and thereby also the protective clauses we are required to be considered while drafting the agreement of particular these properties which are obtained by the developers. Now we are in the midst of this particular thing. The properties which are developed by these particular developers are in the capacity as a promoter. They are promoters within the meaning of the MOFA Act, within the meaning of the RERA Act. They undertake the development of the property, they develop the property, they sell the property, they raise the loan, they allow the flat purchasers to raise the loan, and thereby the third party interests are created. Now, if these all encumbrances are created, huge investment is made, the time taken for this particular development is of a longer period of 4, 5, 6 years, or even more, even that, considering the value of the particular areas, tenements, etc. Then in that case, if there is any refusal on the part of the party, then the person who is dealing with has to be protected by the law. So he has to rush to the court of law. And thereby, whatever he does he first gets to get that particular agreement, a contract, properly enforced from the court of law, which is called a specific performance of an contract. So far, we have seen the contracts, the validity of the contracts, the enforceability of the contracts, the essential ingredients of the contract. But now, despite all these things, despite passing of consideration, despite agreeing to perform the part of the agreement, despite everything under the agreement what is stipulated, despite that the other party is trying to avoid the performance of the contract, and accordingly the person who is aggrieved thereby is required to approach the court of law under the doctrine of the specific performance. The Specific Relief Act specifically provides for these particular types of remedies which are must for this type of properties, especially immovable properties and movable properties also. Specific Relief Act is applicable to both the transaction of the immovable property as well as that of the movable properties also, namely that of the shares or whatever movable properties, if the parties agree to sell a motor car, despite the provisions of the Sale of Goods Act, which is a special law. Despite that, herein also, under this particular Specific Relief Act, the party can claim a specific relief against the wrongdoer. Now you will find that the section 4 of the Specific Relief Act specifically provided that the specific relief is to be granted only for enforcing individual civil rights. Means a person can enforce the civil rights which are under the contract against the other party who is avoiding the performance of it, and civil rights. So it presupposes that there must be contract, there must be valid contract, there must be civil right, and there must be the individual has to enforce that right. But this is not for the enforcing penal laws. So there cannot be a specific performance for enforcing any penal laws. And the most important provision of this particular act, besides the specific performance decrees, etc., you will find in our practice, regular practice of civil lawyers, everything, that sometimes the possession is lost. And whenever that possession is lost, then we have to recover the possession. And this act, Specific Relief Act, gives a special remedy under section 6 of the act, and there is the recovery of possession has been specifically provided for whenever there is an illegal dispossession by otherwise legal mode of law or legal procedure. Then the person who is dispossessed, his possession can be restored within the period of 6 months from the date of dispossession. He has to approach the court of law. So dispossession, whenever illegally done by any person, even under the contract also, that can be also, or in any other means also, under this particular Specific Relief Act, under section 6, it can be restored. Now you will find further more remedies under this act which are very important for us, and that is the specific performance of a contracts and the defenses under law of the contracts, which are to be taken by the parties. We lawyer, we defend both the parties, either plaintiff or defendant. How it is to be defended? Then we always come with the defense that the incomplete agreement. The agreement is an incomplete one. Whenever there is an incomplete agreement, there is no certainty in the agreement, then the difference, then this particular defense which can be raised that agreement is incomplete one, it is not enforceable at law. Moreover, the defense, the popular defense, which is always raised by the parties, that of a fraud, the fraud is a ground for avoiding an agreement. Always we, after getting money, after getting consideration, by means of all the hooks or crooks, the parties raise a defense that a fraud has been played against me, that it was in effect the price was fixed so and so, but it was reduced only for the stamp duty purposes on the document, and it was not paid, and a fraud has been played against me to avoid the contract. Then the alteration in the date and the time which has been agreed by the parties. If the parties unilaterally, by their own conduct, make an alteration in a date and time, and thereby the very nature of the transaction itself is affected, then also the party can raise this type of defense. The subsistence of the contract, the existence of the contract is a very vital important term for the specific performance, and hence there must be a concluded contract. The word used by the law is a concluded contract, means there must be an agreement in respect of the transaction in all respect. So conclusion means to put to an end to a transaction of the agreed terms. So that's, unless there is a concluded contract, there cannot be a specific performance. Then there is a variance of a pleading and the proof, that is the evidence what we adduce in court of law. Always we file a suit. As usual, clients come at very late stage when the limitation is about to expire within 2 or 3 days or so and so. So hurriedly the plaintiffs are required to be prepared and to be filed in court of law. Then, and thereby the whatever theory we propound, which is based on the agreement, the instructions given by the clients, etc. And those, thereby we prepare the pleading. And in evidence, when party enter into the witness box, there is a variance between the pleadings and that of the proof, which is to be adduced by the parties. And such variance is also fatal for the specific performance. Then other defects, whatever are noticed in the document, that is the consideration is not properly passed. And most important one is the time essence of contract. Normally in every agreement, we provide for certain stipulations regarding the passing of consideration, its time, its tenure, etc. And many a times on certain rigid terms are provided, like a time essence of contract. It implies that the parties agree to pay certain amount within so and so months. And if we use the word, the time has been agreed to be an essence of contract, then the particular amount is to be paid within the specified stipulated time limit only. It becomes a time essence of contract. And if it is not paid, or it is delayed indefinitely, or even by the partial payment, then that particular doctrine of time essence of contract can be also brought into existence, and the contract can be challenged on that ground also. The general principles relating to the specific performance, as we have already discussed regarding the concluded contract, but the law, our particular Indian Contract Act and the Specific Relief Act also, as well as our legal system, it has given a discretion to the courts to perform the contract specifically. And this entire law of this Specific Relief Act is based on a judicial discretion, despite the written terms between the parties agreed upon, passing of consideration, legality of the objects, legality of the terms, legality of the consideration, no fatal thing. Despite that, the court has a strong, reasonable apprehension about the discretion to be considered by the court while passing a decree or refusing a decree. And this is what the specific performance particular is a lacuna of this particular act itself. And up to this year 2018, whatever suits we were filing in court of law regarding the specific performance, those were, we were assuming for specifically, despite the provisions of the law, despite the rigid provisions of the law, concluded contract, consideration, everything as we have discussed, then also the court may pass the decree or may not pass the decree. And that has been now changed by virtue of the amendment in September 2018, whereby certain contracts are brought in a specific forms, especially the contracts in respect of infrastructure, all road big developments, dams, etc., or whatever infrastructure, and therein this particular development activities of the builder, promoter, their contractors, etc., is also covered, and thereby in those cases, after this September 2018, after the amendment of section 19 and section 20 of the Specific Relief Act, now these contracts, the court has no discretion, and the court has to pass the decree, and the word shall has been used in the amending act. So the earlier provision, that of the discretion, but barring this thing, except these three type of contracts of these particular immovable properties, of the infrastructures, or the foreign investment, basic joint ventures, etc., of such nature, which are specified in that particular amendment, except otherwise, for in all other cases, still there is a judicial discretion which is to be exercised by the Honorable Court, considering the facts and the circumstances of the matter and the context of the parties. Then you will find the specific performance, the burden is always on the person who assets it. So the contracts for the transfer of immovable properties, the burden is always on the plaintiff to prove certain facts, and at a very important point only, sometimes the burden has been shifted on the defendant, but most of the burden, about 80% of the burden, is always on the plaintiff itself. So special defenses for the this particular suits of the specific performance, as we popularly known to everybody, is that of it is a mortgage, it is a security. The transaction which was agreed, especially to sale of the property, whenever the sale of the immovable property is challenged, and the defense is always raised, is it was merely a security, and upon the repayment of the money, this was to be cancelled, and it is not an agreement of sale of the property. So the popular defense which is raised by the parties is that of either mortgage or the circumstances resembling to that of the mortgage, and hence this popular defense is always raised. But therein, when such a defense is raised by the defendant, then the heavy burden is on the defendant to prove that the particular circumstances so exist, or what was the real intention of the parties, the conduct of the parties, and the circumstances which led to enter into the agreement and the performance of it. You will find a very interesting thing in this particular law of the specific performance, that herein this law is very liberal. The liberal in the sense that even the agreement which is not registered, still performance can be claimed, specific performance can be claimed in the court of law. The courts have gone one step forward. Even the oral agreements, if the parties can prove the performance of it by several circumstances, witnesses, etc., the oral agreements can also be enforced under the Specific Performance Act also. not only that, but the reciprocal obligations between the parties are to be considered, and accordingly, the court has to pass the decree. Lastly, you will find, particularly this particular this law is very special. And what is special? It gives a right to the party to perform the transaction as agreed between them. So the readiness and willingness of the parties, and herein we stop for a while and just consider this: what is the ready and willingness? Under the contract, we agree the person, the owner of the property, or the person who intend to purchase or develop, he both of them have certain reciprocal obligations on each other to comply certain terms, etc. The owner has to pass the proper title. The purchaser has to pay, or the developer has to pay the amounts agreed by if by installment or by in lump sum, etc. within a stipulated time, etc. If these reciprocal obligations are not performed, then the law gives extreme liberal concessions to both the parties. Unless these particular obligations are performed by the parties, or ample opportunity is given to the parties to perform their respective part, then only these particular contracts are enforced by court of law. Then you will find that in every suit or in every litigation of the specific performance, especially regarding the title, regarding the immovable properties, a very important terminology is required to be used. That terminology is in the form of a ready and willingness of the party to perform their part. Now, their part means what? Both the parties have to perform their respective part. That respective part of the party, which is to be performed by them, the plaintiff has to perform his part, the defendant has to perform his part. Plaintiff is ready to pay the money, the defendant avoids to perform his part. If it is proved that the plaintiff has failed to pay the money, he has no money at the relevant time, then he has failed to perform his job. But despite that, if the plaintiff has specifically averred and brought to the notice of the defendant, either reciprocally your performance is also required to be completed by the end as per the terms of the agreement, then the reciprocal obligations of the parties come into existence, and both the parties has to perform their respective part. So plaintiff must, in his pleading, categorically say that he was always ready and willing to perform his part. And even today, he is ready and willing to perform his part. Then only that contract is completed, or else the plaintiff, the court cannot pass a decree of a specific performance. Mere mechanical using of the word of the plaintiff was always ready and willing to perform his part is not enough. The plaintiff has to prove beyond doubt as to how the plaintiff was ready and willing to perform his part. He has paid from several times so and so amounts. He is ready to pay the remaining amount. He has in his bank account particular amount, or his loan for payment of this amount has been duly sanctioned, subject to certain stipulations which are not performed by the defendant. And so this ready and willingness is an essential ingredient for the suits of the specific performances. Then the conduct of the plaintiff is always to be required to be considered by the honorable court. As I already stated you, that the court has a judicial discretion to pass a decree. So while exercising that judicial discretion, the court always see what was the conduct of the party during whole of the tenure of the transaction, and also after filing of the suit also. Then the time essence of contract, which has been properly considered or not, has also to be considered. Then finally you will find that the section 17 of this particular act, it gives a specific provision when this particular specific performance cannot be granted. And law says that when the person has no title, despite that he has agreed to sell the property, assuming that, as Mr. B. Awad 2-3 days ago on this dais only had told you that the person may be an ostensible owner. He may be a owner after few years or so, and in anticipation that he enters into an agreement, and that is called, if the person has no title, then the specific performance cannot be granted. As I already told you about the discretion of the court, the court has to consider this particular discretion, and the most important aspect of this particular specific performance you will find is regarding, it's a very liberal law. Liberal law in the sense, the act itself, section 22 of this act clearly provides that there should be a liberal interpretation of the terms of the agreement, and you will find one extreme case wherein in a decree of a specific performance, the plaintiff has failed to claim the relief of possession in his plaint. The decree is passed. The plaintiff approached the honorable court for execution of it, and during the course of execution, the plaintiff applied for the amendment even after passing of decree, and that amendment is allowed. Supreme Court allowed that amendment and asked the parties to amend the pleading and to add the point of possession it, and the possession should be delivered to the plaintiff. To this extent, the amendments are allowed in this type of proceeding, and thereby, so as far as possible, the basic cardinal principle of law, especially of the contract, that every agreement is to be honored if it is legal one, if it is valid one, if it is enforceable one, if it is not for illegal consideration, etc., or unlawful object, or not forbidden by law, then it must be performed. The law says perform, but except this 2018's amendment, previously there was a discretion to the court, and the court, in their discretion, used to refuse the decree, and hence we lawyers in every suit, we alternatively pray that if the honorable court comes to the conclusion that the decree cannot be passed for any reason, then the refund of the earnest money paid, the damages, the interest, etc., should be awarded and should be allowed to be paid from the defendant, or the defendant be directed to pay. So, to overcome that particular discussion and not to file the suit for even because the limitation will be arise, etc. So that's why the liberal interpretation and the alternative reliefs are also required to be claimed in this particular types of litigation. Lastly, you will find these particular transactions of the immovable property wherein the transfer of the title is contemplated, and you, the RERA practitioners, you are defending either the flat purchasers or the builders, and the builder and the promoter has to transfer the title. So while transferring the title, he has to take all the precautions, and out of that, foremost important precaution is that of execution of proper agreement of sale or development or joint venture, as the case may be, whatever the time and contingency provides for. And hence, to protect the interest of a bona fide person, this specific relief act gives the relief to the person plaintiff who is aggrieved and the defendant who is trying to either avoid or defeat the provisions of the agreement of the contract, etc. And hence this law is very important for us. Thank you. With this all. Okay.
Sujata, please take over.
Yes.
Sujata.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can raise your hands or put it in the chat box. If anyone has any questions for sir, please put it in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand. Anyone with questions? So I think you have explained it so beautifully, so there are no questions here by
Very good.
anyone. So I'll
Yeah,
ask.
one Lakshmikant Duge has raised his hands.
Yes.
Ma'am, will you please ask him to please unmute himself and ask his question?
Yes, Mr. Shrikant, please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Anybody has questions, sir?
Yeah, I have a question, sir.
Yes. Have your question? Yes.
Yeah, it was a very nice session. I was delayed, but it was a nice session. So my question is, sir, and if this builder has not performed any kind of like the completion of the project, and then what can we do something with respect to the specific relief act? Can we take any action
See,
against the builders?
See, this question is appears to be relating to the flat purchaser or to the owner.
Yes. Yeah, flat purchases, sir.
If it is flat purchaser, then you have got your ample remedies under RERA Act, under your MOFA Act also, as well as Consumer Protection Act also. You can claim everything, damages. You can claim for delay possession, for execution of conveyance, delivery of possession, or whatever, even deficiency in service. Whatever.
Correct.
So you have got ample remedies. This specific relief is regarding the whenever their contract is avoided. By whom? By the owner, and thereby the developer promoter comes in trouble, because he has already created third party interest. He has he has sold the flats, he has sold the shops, offices, etc., and he is under obligation to complete the transaction as against the purchasers. So that's why specific purpose for him it will be advisable. But for the flat purchaser, there are ample remedies under this act, and those remedies are a bit cheap than that of civil courts.
Yeah, perfectly right, sir. Yeah, I got your point, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything more?
So there are two questions.
Yes.
One is from Mr. Somaya. If the society terminates the development agreement, and in that case, how the buyer be protected under RERA? How is the buyer protected if the society if the society terminates the development agreement? That is his question.
See, question is that whether society terminates or otherwise is a different question. Question is that the society has given all rights to the developer. Accordingly, in furtherance of those rights of development and whatever power of attorney is executed in favor of the particular developer, promoter, whosoever he may be, he has entered into contract with the flat purchaser. Now there is a default between the parties. Recently, Bombay High Court has given a judgment, and it's a very interesting and very important for all of us. Whenever a third-party interest is created by developer, then such agreement cannot be terminated by the owner, and owner can claim damages in that case. So society cannot terminate such type of agreement with the developer, and society may claim damages from the developer. But third party's interest is when created by lawful manner, by registering document, a genuine transaction, even a loan has been sometimes obtained from the banks, etc., or the financial institution, then such a right cannot be defeated. And in that case, the particular developer acts as an agent of the society. Now the agent's act cannot be repudiated by the principal. Inside, and it is for consideration, basically. So society, even if terminates it, that is not valid termination. Nowadays, the judgment is very clear on this issue, and the law is very clear. And development agreement cannot be basically development agreement. Yes.
I request everyone to mute yourselves. Sir, may I go ahead with the next question?
सरांना अनम्यूट करते. निलेश सर, सरांना अनम्यूट कराल का प्लीज?
मी करतोय पण मला इथनं जमत नाही.
रोहित आहे रोहित.
Kelly, we have
Done, done.
done it. When we got the message, we done it immediately.
Right.
Yes.
Sir, our next question is from Advocate Shriram Joshi. Advocate Joshi, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Joshi.
I'll read out the question, sir. If amendment to pleading and decree is allowed, and whether newly amended issue will be adjudicated by the court on merit by commencing a trial to that effect.
No. Only see whatever I have given the example, that was in respect of the specific performance, wherein by an agreement of sale, the party has paid the entire money and the owner is refusing to perform the contract. Therein, lawyer failed to plead about the delivery of possession. That was allowed by the court. So amendment of what nature is there, that is also important. So what type of, it's a very vague question. What sort of amendment you mean to see? If the amendment is required to be amended and thereby there is no surprise to the opposite party, it can be amended at any stage.
Thank you, sir. The
Yes.
next question from Advocate Nitin Raze Bhosle. So,
Yes.
Advocate Bhosle, please go ahead. Advocate Bhosle. So I'm reading out his question. It says, if cause of action occurred in 2018, but there is no provision under RERA under which it can be filed, consequently no redressal, and MOFA is extended / revived by the state government post 2017, which court should one go and under which law, RERA or MOFA, or before the Consumer Forum?
See, all these three remedies are available to you. Now, what is the nature of exactly avoidance? What exactly you want to, whether there is a delay in possession, what is the delivery in possession, or formation of society, execution of conveyance, what sort of dispute it's? Because you have got all the remedies are available.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Nitin this side. Good evening, sir. Sir, the question was specifically raised wherein the MOFA is not extended post 2017.
Right.
So now when MOFA is not revived,
Yes.
and if any dispute or cause of action arises in between the delay of when the MOFA is not revived and RERA doesn't provide for any redressal to your problems, then where the aggrieved party has to go which way?
No. First thing is that
I mean,
First thing is that there is no presumption under the when this particular RERA Act has been RERA Act is enacted or made applicable in
Right.
2016, May 2016.
16.
Then that time
Correct.
they have repealed only one act. That is the
Correct.
Maharashtra RERA Act. They have not repealed any other act. So the provisions of the RERA other acts, they do apply. There is no question of any extension of any law or otherwise. The MOFA Act is not repealed at all. You have got option. You can opt for it. But whenever there is a continuous cause of action, then you can go.
Right.
Then you can go to the Consumer Protection Act. Then if there is after registration, the party when the RERA Act has come to existence in 2016, the RERA registration thereafter you can avail the benefits of RERA Act. And before that, the MOFA Act was applicable. So MOFA Act is not anyway gone away with. You can very well use also. But considering all the things, the MOFA Act is to be, it has got no proper implementation machinery. That's why
Correct.
we rush to the RERA Act.
Correct. Because
So
sir, under RERA,
Yes.
sir, under MOFA, we have only criminal actions in certain consequences if the builder
That's
does
true.
not
That's
form a
true.
society
Means
unlawfully.
because we are not interested. The person should go in behind the bar. We
Right. Correct,
want the possession should be delivered. We
Possession
want
should be given. Right.
execution should be there. Execution of conveyance
Right.
should be executed, or damages
Correct.
should be paid to us. So that's why
Correct.
normally we go to the RERA or to the Consumer Protection Act also. That act is also applicable, provided it's a continuous cause of action.
Right, right.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Thank you.
one last question. Advocate Santosh Surya Rao.
Yes.
Advocate Rao, are you there, Surya Rao? So I'm going to read his question. If the builder makes an agreement with landowner on the basis of futuristic consideration, in this
Yes.
situation, banks are not willing to provide loans to flat purchasers. What are the options available?
No. If it is a valid agreement, why a bank should I don't think anything. If it is a valid contract, there is no problem. How bank can refuse the any loan, etc. It's an independent. There is a eligibility, not of the property, but of the credential of the builder only. Merely because agreement is a future whenever to be paid, etc. That cannot be the reason for giving because whether the interest is created or not is the only question of the bank. So I don't think bank cannot refuse such proposal merely because of this reason.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there's a request from Advocate Gargi Bhandare.
Yes.
She's requesting for the case law regarding the amendment after passing of the decree.
Yes, we can give you. Ask her to meet me. I will give you that one. The whatever the judgment given by Supreme Court, that I will give you. But that is in respect of only specific performance, not in other cases. That judgment is in case of specific performance only, which was granted by the court. It was to be executed, and at the time of execution, it was revealed that the possession clause is not mentioned. So without possession, there is no use of executing the decree. That's why the court allowed it. That is the judgment, and hence finally the amendment was allowed. It was incorporated, and the possession was delivered to the party as per the decree amended one also later on. I can give. Later contact me. I can visit. But it is restricted to that only, not in any other cases.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
There are many questions pouring in, sir, but I'll read out one last question.
No, you can ask. I have no problem for timing. You can ask any question.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Advocate Nikita Pandit, are you there? Advocate Pandit? So her question to you is, so in case of redevelopment of a commercial shop in semi-commercial building for possession, should one go under Commercial Codes Act or RERA or specific performance?
See, Commercial Codes Act is a special enactment wherein the transactions in respect of construction development are provided for, and the value of the claim is more than 1 crore, then only the Commercial Codes Act jurisdiction is applicable. And in Commercial Act, if you want to go, then in that case, there is a specific provision under Section 12 of the Act that you have to first go for the mediation. Unless the mediation is completed, then only you can file the suit. So first mediation is you have to file to the mediation. Then the result of the mediation is against you. Then only you can file the suit.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Anand Pandey.
Yes.
If a husband, this is related to domestic violence and read with the contract law. If a husband asks for a declaration or undertaking that the wife shall not file any case in the case of domestic violence, if any such incident happens, is valid in terms of contract law?
See, question is that any criminal proceeding is to be avoided, etc. It is a different one. If in the dissolution of the marriage, if the parties agree that for any past acts, previous acts in the maritime life, anything has happened, the parties now hereafter, after dissolution of their marriage, they will not agitate upon, or they should not proceed, they should not file any proceeding. That is valid. But if later on they are free, suppose the husband in a different capacity assaults her, can she not file? She can. Or she assault the husband, he can file. Up to the date of dissolution of the marriage, whatever previous things have happened, in that respect, that particular undertaking is valid in the court of law. Even the Supreme Court has condoned even 498 also in many cases, if the matters are going to be compromised and the decrees are to be passed under consent decree section 13b. So it is for the past acts, not for the future acts.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
The next question is from Mr. Sunil Keval Ramani. So please go ahead with the question.
Okay. No, cannot be heard properly.
I'll read it out for him.
Yes, cannot be heard.
He says there is
no, her voice cannot be. It's not at all first thing laudable, and it is almost an just sort of a mixing of two voices. I think some problem to her instrument. Our instrument is okay. It's all. You get the question.
I'll read the question.
Yes. Very well.
There is no provision in RERA Act to cancel allotment of flat of allottee in case no agreement for sale is entered by the builder with the allottee. In my case, the builder has issued allotment letter to allottee and the allottee is avoiding to make further payment by giving some reason or the other. Actually, the fact is the allottee is not having money to pay further payment to the builder.
You can very well terminate the agreement. See, RERA Act also provides that whenever the purchaser is delaying, then either he should pay the interest or he should get the refund of the money with interest at the agreed rate, whatever under the Act, 12% or something, whatever that. So if he has no money, then very well it can be terminated. Recently in Supreme Court in Delhi, in Noida matter, even Supreme Court has unilaterally increased the price of the flat and ordered the party to pay the additional price if you want the performance of it. So mere allotment is not an absolute title. Very well it can be terminated if the party is at default. Certainly it can be by giving an opportunity to him by asking him to payment of this particular compensation or interest, etc. Certainly, or it can be terminable. Even our agreement is terminable. Why it should not be the allotment? Allotment is a mere confirmation only.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Ms. Ashwini Kulkarni. Ma'am, please go ahead.
Yes. Yes, please.
So the question is, so flat is purchased in the year 2008 and now the builder is asking VAT amount from the flat owner. Builder has already paid VAT amount to authorities in lump sum. In sale agreement, the VAT clause is not mentioned clearly. So whether flat owner has to pay or not to the builder?
No. Whatever the terms of the flat agreement, that shall prevail. If there is no provision to pay any additional amount, then question doesn't arise. And already possession is given in 2008. So where is the problem? I don't think he cannot claim any additional amount in such cases.
Thank you, sir. These were the questions raised by our participants. So I'll request Advocate Surbhi to take over from here.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening.
It was very informative lecture. I would like to thank you for your time that you have given to us.
Yes.
It was informative as well as a knowledgeable lecture. Some part, the Contract Act, the interpretation of it, and along with that, the respective provisions regarding to immovable property. So in regular day-to-day practice, it will be very helpful for us and very knowledgeable lecture, because in this lockdown period, we are getting a lot of web series organized on various topics, and as you've been one of the senior advocate and you have given your valuable time. So on behalf of RERA Practitioner Association Pune as well as RERA Practitioner Association Mumbai, we all thank you for your valuable time, and also we thank to all the participants to have such an interactive session with you. So we just request you, and we are looking forward to you to be with us on various other topics too. So hence, right now we are just saying thank you, sir. We will be eager to meet you again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
so much. Thank